The URA master plan was just announced and there is so much to talk about, with hotly anticipated developments as well as hidden gems you might have missed. In this video, we'll be touching on every single location that the URA master plan affects and what you as a property buyer or seller should do to take advantage of it. So let's go. Hi everyone, my name is William from Own This Property and welcome back to the channel. The URA master plan was just announced in June this year and it touches on the plans and vision that government has for the next 10 to 15 years. There is an exhibit going on at URA Centre, it's pretty cool, so do check out some of those exhibits if you are around that area. And because there's so much information to talk about, I've taken the time and effort to summarize the key highlights and what are the places you should be looking at. So please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Every single one of them counts and I really appreciate it and it keeps me going to create more videos like this. Now, some of the key highlights that this URA master plan touches on, most importantly, there's going to be new neighborhoods in over 10 housing areas. There's also going to be new business hubs, and it also talks a little bit about the Long Island transformation and a lot about the greenery and park connectors that will be built over the next few years. Since we are a property channel that covers largely residential properties, let's dive deeper into the housing areas. There's going to be 7 new housing areas and another 5 that were already announced previously. In this video, I'll be diving into every single location, what are some of the major development plans, and most importantly, what are some of the properties that you can look at in those areas. And since it's a master plan video, we'll be looking at the URA master plan a lot and it's going to be pretty confusing if you're not too familiar with what every single color means. So bookmark this part of the video to refer back if you're not sure what every single color in the URA master plan means. For each area, I'll be sharing with you the available properties that you can buy, what is their PSF, and also what is their price. But because there's just so many properties to cover, I filtered that down to the top newest properties in an area, and I've also mostly excluded the boutique developments. Now, if you take a look at how I'm going to share this data with you, the green shaded cells refer to new launch developments that still have units from the developer, whereas the yellow shaded cells refer to resale transactions that have already happened, and this represents the average PSF transacted over the past year. And to keep the video a bearable length so that you can stay with me till the end, I won't have the time to dive deeper into the pros and cons of every single development because there's just so many different locations. So if you'd like to find out more detail and dive deeper into what is a good property to buy or what is a property you should actually avoid in each area, do reach out to me on WhatsApp or fill up the Google form link below and I'll be happy to set up a consultation session with you. Let's start the ball rolling by combining 2 areas in close proximity to one another. This is the Dover Medway and Metropolis transformation areas. And this falls under the Greater One North area, which is kind of like the tech hub of Singapore going forward. Firstly, let's talk about Dover Medway, and this is that huge cluster to the left of Kent Ridge MRT. If you take a look at the picture on the right over here, you can see this large cluster that is just north of where NUS currently is. This is going to be an area with new public and private homes. It's going to be new transport, amenities and recreational spaces, and it will be all connected through cycling and pedestrian walkways. And to the right of Kent Ridge MRT is the Metropolis cluster. This is where MediaCorp is right now, and this will only be a private residential area. It will welcome a new community area as well, so you have pop-up concepts and also lifestyle activities happening over there. Looking at the URA master plan, you can see how these changes have evolved. Now, focusing on the center of each map is Kent Ridge MRT, to the left is Dover Medway, and to the right is Metropolis. So before the new master plan, Dover you can see is largely education land, and there are these big plots of white sites. And it's interesting because white sites usually are the most valuable land plots, but since then, the newest master plan, you can see that they have turned all but one plot into beige, which stands for residential land. Now, to the right of Kent Ridge MRT, you can see that there's a lot of blue commercial land which have now turned pink, which stands for residential with commercial element on the first floor, or what we like to call mixed-use developments. There are some interesting developments you can look at to leverage this transformation happening. And first up is Lindenwoods, which is previewing as we are recording this video. It will launch on the 12th of July. Bloomsbury was the latest new launch in April, and we also have some units left at the Hill at One North as well as Blossoms by the Park. Actually, the 4-bedroom at Blossoms to me shows good value here. This is walking distance to Buona Vista MRT and one of the larger developments in the area. So if you are looking for 4-bedroom with MRT with a good school, leveraging on the One North transformation, I think that the units left at Blossoms by the Park, the 4 bedrooms, are a good pick. And of course, Lindenwood's pricing is very attractive. This is the latest indicative pricing from the developer. And if you take a look at where Bloomsbury is transacting, and on average it has already transacted at $2,476 per square feet. So previously I expected Lindenwoods to be more expensive, $2,500 to $2,600 per square feet, just because it's also closer to the MRT. In fact, it's the only development that is within walking distance to Cambridge MRT. So this pricing I think definitely is below my expectations and also bumps up my own ranking of Lindenwoods this year. If you'd like to find out my quick analysis of Lindenwoods as well as the other new launches happening this year, do reach out to me on WhatsApp, or you can also fill up the Google form link below and I'll be sharing with you my ultimate guide to new launches 2025. Next, let's head into the CCR, and first we have Newton, which is going to be very exciting. This transformation will cover Newton Central area all the way to the southeast where Monks Hill is at. Based on what URA has shared, right next to Newton MRT, there will be a unique mixed-use urban village. There will also be 5,000 new homes around Newton Circus, Scotts Road, as well as Monks Hill. And Monks Hill will be envisioned to be more of a lower density area. You're going to have more parks and green corridors that will link you to Newton MRT. If you take a look at what the URA master plan used to be, you'll see that Newton MRT used to be surrounded by a lot of yellow reserve sites, but they have now since turned into white sites. So white sites, again, they can be anything. They are usually the most valuable land, and it'll give you a very good mix of basically amenities, shopping malls, community pedestrian areas, as well as residential properties. And to the bottom right, you can also see that the reserve site has now turned into more beige residential land. This is where Monks Hill is at. And you can also see that the green corridor has already been carved up over there. The Newton area has so many properties, many of which are actually boutique developments. So in this list, I've handpicked the 5 newest and larger developments in the area. Looking at the list, Copa at Newton stands out because it's the newest and the only 99-year development in the last few years. And if you take a look at the PSF and Quantum, I think that it's actually a pretty good buy, considering that the freehold developments over there are either much older or much more expensive. And while 26 Newton is also in the list, this doesn't mean that it's a good buy if you just take a look at the price, because the unit mix of this development is pretty bad. There are only 1 and 2 bedroom units over there. There aren't any 3 or 4 bedrooms. So that's generally not a unit mix that we want to buy, be it you are an investor or a home buyer. In fact, if you have a higher budget looking for a freehold property in the Newton area, my top recommendation is not in this list. So if you want to find out what my top recommendation is, you know what to do. Just reach out to me on WhatsApp and I'll be happy to share more with you. And sticking to the CCR, we have an even more atas area than Newton, and this is in the Orchard area, particularly Patterson. Lots of exciting changes over here, particularly an integrated development that is 3.5 hectares large above Orchard MRT. Now, to put things into perspective, Ion Orchard sits on a 1.865 hectare land plot. So this is massive in terms of size. Definitely, it will inject a lot of new amenities into the area. Being this white site, generally people are looking at a lot of different things from your F&B, shops, offices, as well as residential properties. If you take a look at the URA master plan, we can already see that this integrated development here, it used to be a pink site, but now it has been combined into a huge white site. Now there's also going to be planned walk and cycle infrastructure within the neighborhood to make the streets more pedestrian friendly. We are expecting cycling paths along the inner ring corridor that will connect Patterson to Orchard. There will also be a series of public spaces, so this will double up as kind of like a short line route that will extend from Orchard all the way to the River Valley area. Zooming out of the larger area, we have quite a few properties to choose from new to old resale properties. Notice how that the new land plots, being 99 years, they offer a much more palatable PSF and quantum relative to the much older and large freehold properties. This dynamic is currently playing out in not only Orchard but also other CCR areas because the government is releasing government land sales that are 99 years and they are competing with the older freehold properties over there. So 99-year developments definitely will have a cheaper PSF, more palatable quantum, and it definitely opens up the CCR to more mass market buyers. And because the CCR has always been plagued by a lack of organic Singaporean demand, I think that this move will definitely be a boon to property prices in these areas in the long run. Looking at the list, we have Upper House, which is launching soon, and there are still units at the freehold new launches such as Grange 1866. The pricing looks good relative to the other developments over here, and you also have very, very luxurious properties like Boulevard 88, which definitely you can see reflected in the price tag with properties hitting more than $4,000 per square feet over here. So Upper House, which is developed by UOL and Singland, is launching soon. The previews are starting on the 5th of July. It is situated directly next to Orchard Boulevard MRT, and units range from 1 plus study to a massive 2,056 4-bedroom suite. Now we have a lot of information already, including the floor plan, so if you'd like to receive more information or visit the show flat with me, do reach out to me on WhatsApp and I'll be happy to set them up for you. Let's move out of the CCR and look at other areas, and this particular area has been years in the making, the former Kranji Racecourse. Now I personally kind of regret not experiencing a horse race myself because this whole area will be redeveloped to include public and private homes of over 14,000 units. Over here, if you take a look at the pictures, you can see that the homes will be surrounded by nature such as Kranji Nature Corridor, and you'll also have convenient access to the Rail Corridor and the Round Island route. Sticking to its roots, the estate will also be next to the hub for equestrian sports as well as community horseback riding. Looking at the URA master plan, if you take a look at the left area, which is dark purple, that is where the future MRT Sungai. Looking at the master plan, the dark purple plots of land on the left side, you will notice that will be where the future Sungai Kadut MRT will be at. This is expected to be completed in 2035. Homes in the area will also be near to the upcoming Mandai Mangrove and the Mudflat Nature Park and the Sungai Buloh Wetland Reserve. Nature lovers, this will definitely be a place that you will enjoy. Unfortunately, because this is an entirely new area, there are no homes there at the moment to consider for you to purchase. Probably if you want to buy a resale property in that area, you have to go one stop away, which is at UT or Marsiling MRT. On to number 6 in the list, and this is going to be a big one. This is the Paya Lebar Air Base transformation, phase 1, which includes the Defu area. Based on the URA master plan, the government has announced that the Paya Lebar Air Base will be relocated in 2030. So this frees up about 800 hectares of land. Putting into perspective, this is 5 times the size of Toa Payoh. So the height restrictions in the surrounding area will also likely be removed. That will allow probably higher developments in that area in the future. The development will also take place in phases. It will start with the Defu estate, which is close to Hougang area. Looking at the URA master plan, we can see that the then dark green, which is military land, has now changed into yellow reserve sites. So because this is still years away, the exact housing mix is still unknown, and based on the URA master plan, they has announced it to be under study. Defu will be the start of phase 1, currently is mostly made up of industrial land. So this will be redeveloped first into a community-oriented, what they call a 10-minute neighborhood. Basically, if you live in that area, you can get 10-minute walk to most of the amenities and MRT. There's also plans to include the former airport buildings for us to kind of reminiscent the area's rich history. Now, did you know that actually the Defu transformation has been telegraphed many years ago? Defu MRT is along the Cross Island line and is expected to complete in 2030, ready for all the upcoming developments that is telegraphed now by the URA master plan. So properties like Riverfront and Florence, they already have very good resale performance since their launch. I think that the news will further push up their prices in the long run. And apart from these properties, there is one particular development that is closer to Defu MRT, and this is actually my top pick, and right now it offers a great entry price for growth in the next 5 to 10 years. A YouTube viewer who's an investor recently reached out to me and actually asked for advice, and I actually shared with him that Defu is a very overlooked area for a long-term investor of 5 to 10 years. So thank you, Mr. YouTube viewer, for contacting me and trusting my advice. Moving to the north, and number 7 in our list, still in kind of its infancy stages, is the Sembawang Shipyard redevelopment. Similar to Paya Lebar Airbase transformation, it has been slated for redevelopment for quite a while, and now URA has finally invited companies to share their vision. That I've pasted some of their pictures over here. So note that these pictures are just the imaginations or the vision of some of these proposals. Sembawang Shipyard is still under study, and that usually means that any development will still be about 10 to 15 years away from now. Diving deeper into some of the transformation happening, Yishun Industrial Estate, there's plans to actually transform some of those industrial buildings into residential units. And then we also have the Northern Shore, which will be surrounded by the Round Island Route, which is a continuous 150 km park connector that goes around the entirety of Singapore. So expect a lot of nature, greenery, coastal vibes with the Sembawang Shipyard transformation. Since there's nothing going on over there right now, we have to actually increase the radius of our search and stretch all the way to pull some properties for considerations. So Canberra Crescent will be a new launch happening soon, whereas in Canberra you have actually a lot of options from the recently TOP Water Gardens, Commodore, as well as the slightly older EC such as the Vision Air and Brownstone. Each of these plots have their pros and cons, and having sold a property in that area before, I will be able to actually pinpoint and share with you exactly what is more suitable based on your needs. Now that we have covered the 7 new housing areas recently announced in the URA Master Plan, let's also revisit the 5 other areas that were already previously announced, but we have maybe some new information to share with you. And first up is Marina South. This is the new up-and-coming area next to Gardens by the Bay. And if you look at the master plan on the right, you will see that there's going to be multiple mixed-use pink plots, as well as over 10 white sites that will turn Marina South into a new neighborhood. Now, if you want a deeper dive analysis into this area, you can check out my One Marina Gardens video. I've left the link above, or you can also click on the link left in the description below. And speaking of One Marina Gardens, remember back then, there were some people who love it, some people who hate it. And at launch, they sold about 38%. It is pretty modest, not bad, but not great either. But fast forward to today, we are already 52% sold. All of the 1 bedrooms are also fully sold. There are still units available from 2 bedrooms all the way to 4 bedrooms. And recently I've noticed quite a few YouTube viewers reaching out to me asking me whether can buy or not. So definitely there's interest in this area till today. And I think that over time, more and more buyers kind of understand the area better. And by the end of the year, I'm predicting it's going to be about 60 to 70% sold. Moving on to the 9th housing estate, we have Mount Pleasant. This has already been announced back in March along with the first BTO project. And this will fall in either the Plus or Prime category, which entails a 10-year minimum occupation period. If you take a look at the old master plan, the entire Mount Pleasant was actually a residential subject to detailed planning. But now you can see that the residential plots are being carved up. Particularly, there's a blue integrated development plot that is next to the MRT. As of this recording, only public housing has been announced in this area. So to do our list of properties that you can consider, we do have to expand our radius a little bit. And in this wider radius, we do have a good handful of properties from the brand new 99-year launchers such as Ori, or older freehold properties such as the Art, or even Trellis Towers. Now, there are still units left at the Ori, so if you're ever to buy a property here, I think it's important to look at the price gap of the Ori relative to the older developments in the area. Moving on to the 10th location, and something that has already been announced back in November 2023, this is the Pearl Hill transformation. You will get new hillside homes, including the first ever BTO there, as well as a new mixed-use development above Outram MRT. And finally, there's also going to be a community node closer to Chinatown MRT. The changes are quite significant over here. Previously on the left, you can see the older master plan. We were expecting a lot more plots, but 3 residential plots have since amalgamated into 1 large plot, which is where the BTOs will be. Definitely this will be under the prime scheme. Now, URA has also said that the white side will feature a planned pedestrian mall that will provide easy access from Ocean Park MRT all the way to Eu Tong Sen Street as well as Chinatown. And if you notice, some of the blue commercial land have also turned into a larger white site. So this coincides with the plan for a public space at the forefront of the Lower Barracks area, kind of paying homage as well to the heritage of the area. Zooming out of the area to find private properties, there aren't a lot of choices. Union Square, which is to the northeast further away from Pearls Hill, would be the newest, followed by Landmark, which will TOP next year. The most recent to TOP is the iconic circular One Pearl Bank. Now, all things considered, I think that looking at these prices, it is one of the best properties here positioned to ride the wave of transformation happening at Pearls Hill. Although, if you know, there is a major negative to some buyers out there. They might not like the layout at One Pearl Bank. On to the 11th area, we are heading further south to the Keppel area. Now, the former Keppel Golf Course site, spanning 48 hectares, will include 6,000 public housing units as well as 3,000 private housing units. This site will mark the start to the residential portion of the Greater Southern Waterfront transformation. And in the second half of this year, the Telok Blangah GLS will also be launched for tender. Now, this site is expected to yield about 740 units. It will be a very high-rise development. But if you take a look at the launch date, probably by the time it's going to be launched for sale to the public will be about 4th quarter of 2026. Looking at the master plan, we can see how many more plots have been carved. Previously, the large beige plot was subject to detailed planning, and today we have 8 residential plots with the plot ratios indicated already. Now, in addition to the north of Telok Blangah Road, there's another huge land plot that was previously under the reserve yellow side, but is now residential subject to detailed planning. No new launches there at the moment since the Telok Blangah GLS will only be launching around 4th quarter of 2026. So if we zoom out and look at other resale options in the area, the most recent would be the Reef at King's Dock. And if you're someone who likes like waterfront living, do check some of these properties out. You also have the iconic Reflections at Keppel Bay. And last I checked, finally after 14 long years, they have finally turned a profit to some of the first time buyers. 12th in the list, and another brand new estate. This is the Turf City transformation. This new neighborhood will be the most massive in terms of housing units, with about 15,000 to 20,000 residential units, including the first Bukit Timah HDB flats in over 14 years. Now, as with all new estates, it's envisioned to be car light, so residents are kind of told that they're going to be taking a 10-minute walk to either the 2 MRT stations. Right now, we have 6th Avenue on the downtown line, as well as Turf City, which is going to be in the upcoming Cross Island line. It's going to be expected to complete in about 2032. This was a super hot plot because there were 9 developers bidding for this land. The last time I actually saw so many developers bidding for this land was, I think, many years ago. This Dunnan Road site was won by Frasers, Sequoia and CIC Land. They won it at $1,410 per square feet PPR. This is only 3.6 higher than the second bid, which is CDL. So this kind of represents a good deal. If you take a look at some of the more recent hot GLS, there were 8 bids at the Bayshore GLS, and they won the bid at $1,388 per square feet. So for context, Bayshore $1,300 plus per square feet, and Dunnan Road in the CCR $1,400 per square feet. You tell me which is the better buy. And you can see that such a narrow price gap, even for government land sales between the CCR and the OCR. I think this means that the CCR going forward will pick a lot of interest, which will be a positive in the long run. Not too many properties in the immediate vicinity. There are some at the 6th Avenue area. We have 3 developments. 4th Avenue and Royal Green are the newest. They just TOP about 3 years ago. And if you go down further the blue line towards King Albert Park, you also have the Tesarena. And we are still not done yet. I have 3 bonus areas. These areas are kind of special because they are not new housing areas. These are already established, mature housing estates. In the master plan, several areas will get business nodes, community hubs, as well as new refreshed community and recreational facilities. And one of them is Bishan. Bishan is very close to my heart, having been born in a Bishan flat and growing up as a kid in Bishan. Finally, this area definitely needs a much needed upgrade. This has been dubbed Bishan 2.0, which includes a commercial area equivalent to the scale of Paya Lebar Central. There's going to be a new polyclinic, a new hawker center. There's going to be integrated to a refreshed bus interchange. And Bishan Place Road will also be transformed into a pedestrian mall. From the URA master plan, we can see that the dark blue commercial land plots, which are empty till today, they have been actually blue for the past decade. But no plans were actually announced. And finally, we can see that the government has been cooking something, amalgamating about 4 plots in this huge connected area, which will most likely form that new Bishan hub. There are quite a few properties in the Bishan area, so I've listed the 5 newest as well as largest properties near Bishan MRT. Sky Habitat really quite sad here. They have been facing 4 years of construction of the BTO Bishan Ridges, that the owners are also collecting their keys soon. And now to the south of it, you'll get another few years of construction, effectively kind of blocking your north and south view. Likewise, for the south-facing units at Block 1 for Skyview, you will also be blocked or experience some construction noise in the next 5+ years. So lesson here is that in Singapore, nothing is permanent. And this is exactly what I shared with a YouTube viewer turned client. They actually reached out to me and I'm helping them with their HDB upgrading process. We'll be selling their HDB to upgrade to a condo that is within 1 km of Catholic High. So when we visited Skyview and Sky Habitat, they were like, wow, this view is super duper nice. And of course, the seller agent, their job is to sell you that property. They will sell the views. But that is why you need someone who is objective and experienced to look into the master plan, look into the future. And I actually warned them that, hey, if you buy this facing, probably in the next few years, we don't know exactly when, right? Back then when the URA master plan hasn't been announced yet, but definitely in the next few years, your views might be blocked and you might also be facing construction noise. So these little things might actually make or break your property purchasing decision. And 14 in the list, another place close to my heart, because after we lived in Bishan as a kid, my parents actually moved us to Yio Chu Kang. So the Yio Chu Kang MRT and stadium area, this whole area will be redeveloped into a new node that will include a refreshing of the existing stadium and sports hall into a bigger and better sporting, wellness and healthcare sector. Yio Chu Kang private properties are quite old already, so if I dig through some of them, Nuovo is probably the newest and it already TOP'd quite a while back in 2004. So if you go down the road a little, then of course we have the new Lentor cluster of properties with some units left. Now Lentor, since the very beginning, everybody was like, wow, so much fear, uncertainty, there's going to be an oversupply in the area. Since the first launch, which is Lentor Modern, 2,954 units were launched. But you guess how many units are left today? Today, there's only 84 units left. So all these fears and doubt about Lentor being in an oversupply situation have now been truly debunked. There is a lot of HDB upgrader demand from the surrounding area. A lot of the buyers of the Lentor properties come from Sengkang, Punggol, Yio Chu Kang, Ang Mo Kio, and even Bishan. Lastly, and I promise this is the last area in the video today, this is the Woodlands transformation, a lot of which have already been released by the government, so I won't dive too much into the details over here. In terms of properties in that area, the newest will be Norwood Grand, which was launched, and to date, already 85% has been sold, with just 53 units of the 4 bedrooms remaining. So pricing at about $2.6 million, is it a good or bad buy? Do check out my Norwood Grand review. I'll leave the link above and the description below. And I'll also be covering a lot of the resale properties in this list, such as Bellwoods, Forestville, Parks Rosewood, in that video as well. Now, finally, a lot of ground has been covered, and I think to sum up this video, let's look at some of the government land sales that have been announced as we are entering the second half of 2025. The first half 2025 government land sales, some of which have already started, and out of the 10 announced, 2 sales have recently been concluded. We have Lakeside Drive, which is directly opposite Lakeside MRT, and also Dunnan Road, which we have already covered in the earlier part of this video. Upper Thomson Road Parcel A was also relaunched as a standard mixed-use development. Now previously it was an SA2, which is residential with service apartments kind of land, and the response from developers was just bad, right? So URA is definitely taking in the feedback. It's definitely heartening to see that they are able to react to the demand on the ground. And if you notice that there's going to be 3 new EC plots, there's mostly in the northern region. You have Woodlands Drive 17 as well as Sembawang Road, and only Senja Close at Bukit Panjang is kind of more to the west, but it's still more of like a northwest leaning property. And in the second half 2025 government land sales, which was just announced, we have another 10 plots. And you will notice again the ECs, they are only in the northern region. You have another plot at Woodlands Drive 17, as well as Miltonia Close EC at Yishun. So for the coming year and a half, basically all the ECs will be either in the north or the northwest. So if you are looking for an EC not in the north, right, if you want a west or east EC, this is the only year you can get it. To the west, we have Autoplace, which is previewing as I'm recording this video. And also probably in the fourth quarter, we have the EC at Pasir Ris, which is just next to downtown east. If you would like to explore EC as an option, do reach out to me on WhatsApp and I'll be happy to share more with you. The last piece of advice I'll leave you with in this video is that the window of opportunity, something that I've mentioned in my previous video, it is well and truly open today, but it will not last forever. Now, Lindenwood is the first to launch, and the pricing we can see is already lower than expected. Fingers crossed, the developers will also be more reasonable. And for the subsequent launches, you can see in this chart, from July all the way to September, there's going to be so many launches. And again, fingers crossed, the developers is going to be reasonable because they also know that they're competing with other developments. But this window of opportunity, why is it closing fast? Because on the ground, I'm sensing that buyer sentiment is also improving already. The stock market again is back at all-time highs, and interest rates is now at a very low level of just 2%. So if you want to take action but kind of not sure what is a good buy, what's a bad buy, do reach out to me on WhatsApp, or you can fill up the Google form link below, and I'll be sharing with you my ultimate guide to new launches 2025, and also set up a private and personalized consultation where I can share more in greater detail. Thank you for staying till the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive in the URA master plan. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.